My Last Living Grandparent, an Oral History Report. Privacy. Because of her career, which I will not mention, my grandmother has asked me to keep her name private. Thank you for your understanding. Where it all began. My grandmother was born in Bonners Ferry on August 19, 1946, but the family was originally from International Falls, Minnesota, which was the largest town she actually ever visited as a child. Her parents were hard-working and both educated only to the 8th grade. My great-grandfather was a mill worker, and both my great-grandfather and great-grandmother worked in the shipyards in San Francisco during World War II. She had a large family web in Bonners Ferry with lots of cousins, but a lot of the family still lived in Minnesota. Reaching back. My grandmother does not remember much of her grandparents. One set of them lived in Minnesota and the other here in Bonners Ferry. She visited her grandparents in Minnesota 3 times and remembers them being very religious. Her maternal grandparents moved here from Sweden and did not speak a word of English. Her mother did not learn English until she went to school. Her paternal grandparents were of German and Irish descent. Siblings. My grandmother had 1 older brother, 1 older sister, and 1 younger sister. Her brother was 10 years her senior, so he left the house when she was just 8 years old. Her younger sister was 7 years her junior, so she was very protective of her. Her and her older sister fought often, but mostly just over clothes. Childhood home life. Her parents were very loving and supportive. They were very poor, but she did not even realize it until middle school, because everyone else was poor too. They always lived in a less than nice rental. Her father moved wherever there was work. They left Bonners Ferry for Pine Grove, Oregon when she was in 1st grade. In Oregon, her schoolhouse was 1 room. It was heated by a wood stove. For drinking water, they all shared 1 bucket with a big dipper that sat in the bath. The bathroom was a 2-hole outhouse that everyone shared openly. When she was in 4th grade, they moved to San Francisco so that her parents could work in the shipyards during World War II. After that, they eventually moved back to good old Bonners Ferry, then eventually to Post Falls. Childhood home life. She never was told to do chores as a child. She always just did them. She set the table and cleared it, brought in eggs, and chopped kindling for fire. The most common meals they had were goulash and stews. Sitting around the piano with her cousins and aunts was a common activity. So was running around alone in the woods with her .22 rifle. She would often play cops and robbers or cowboys and Indians. She loved to catch lizards and snakes, just like I did as a child. Holidays and special occasions. Fried chicken, mashed potatoes, and gravy was always a real treat. Christmas was a truly religious holiday. There was no Santa or no presents at all. Her father would read a verse from the Bible. On Independence Day, they would all go down to Lake Ponderay, eat watermelon, and enjoy their large family. Birthdays were a small event, with often only 1 present, but sometimes none at all. Dating. She was 14 when she went on her first date. They went to the movies, then had french fries and a Coke. He was also 14, the age you could first drive. High school days. She attended Post Falls High School. Her only regret was that the school did not offer sports for girls. She loved sports when at home. She was in high school band and pep club. Everyone attended all of the games. It was all the entertainment back then. Her and her friends were very innocent. They had slumber parties, would go to movies or school dances, and sleep outside in the summer and raid gardens. They didn't drink or anything, but they would have parties in people's basements. Her family didn't have a telephone while she was in high school. High school days. It was totally acceptable for girls to be smart at her school. She graduated with honors, loved math and English, and simply just loved school. Even when she was sick, she attended because she didn't want to miss out on what was going on. Her favorite teacher was Mrs. Smith, an English teacher. She was very quiet and instilled in her the love of reading. Mrs. Smith didn't even know she was her favorite. She learned typing on a typewriter. The school had 2 electric ones, the rest were manual. Just like today, there were cliques. Cheerleaders, the burnouts, etc., etc. She was in a pretty popular group, though none were cheerleaders. In the past few years, reunions, her and her friends, who she is still close with, had people say that they wanted to be in their group. They had no idea they were popular. They thought they were outsiders. Boys that played sports were very privileged at school and didn't have to do the same projects. In high school, she worked to pay for her own clothes. The restaurant is actually still in Post Falls. It used to be called Bob's, but today it goes by the name of Rob's Drive-In. Her parents always had a full trust in her and did not mind when she stayed out late. Her friends were mostly girls. Back then, boys and girls didn't really mix. Male friends didn't really happen. Everyone would badly label you because it wasn't acceptable. She had no plans for after high school. Her parents moved to California and then left her with her sister and her 2 kids. She wanted to go to college but had no money, so she got married because she had no choice, even though she didn't want to. She knew it was the wrong thing to do, but she didn't have any other place to turn. Her parents didn't even offer to let her go to California with them. Adult life. After marrying her first husband, who she met at Post Falls High School, she realized how difficult it was to be in a relationship with someone who had a drinking problem. They met in high school and got married right after, like many others. She did not leave him despite his issues, for she feared she was damaged goods once they had consummated their marriage. When asked what advice she would give me on love, she replied, "Get to know the person very well before you commit to a lifelong relationship. Live with them first. Friends first, then lovers. You cannot truly know a person until you have lived with them." Though her first husband was not a good man, she does not regret the relationship. It gave her 3 beautiful sons. She had my eldest uncle at 19, my dad at 22, and his younger brother at 29. They divorced soon after his birth. Her second husband gave her a beautiful son as well, at the age of 34, though their marriage did not last long. After that, she married the man I called my grandfather, who she divorced just a few years ago. Today, she is happily married to an old high school boyfriend, or number 4 as my family lovingly calls him. When the boys were young, they often went camping both at the St. Joe River and at the Coeur d'Alene River, to Grouse Creek and Bloom Lake, 2 places I soon hope to visit. Though her family was too poor to pass on any real heirlooms, she did mention that she plans to pass on her gun collection to me, her eldest grandchild. Her love of the outdoors has never faded. Her favorite hobbies these days include riding 4-wheelers, fly fishing, camping, skiing, snowboarding, gardening, and being with the family. She is very active for a 68-year-old woman. My last living grandparent.